When I did that painting, there was no cure for HIV or AIDS. Friends were dropping, friends were getting sick. I'm HIV positive. I had no idea how much longer I had. I certainly did not see myself as a 66-year-old man. If I could go back in time and tell my 34-year-old self, it's gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay. But, hindsight's 2020. My name's Mark. We are in my art studio, which is behind my house, and this is where all the magic happens, besides the bedroom. I grew up in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. I was really into coloring and painting, but then in high school I got into filmmaking. I made a film in high school, and it was art school, film school, art school, film school. And I decided I wanted to keep art really for me. And so I went to film school and I won an award, and I got into assistant editing and then editing. And that's been my main career. And I've cut scripted dramas, trailers and TV spots for Disney movies, documentaries, 14 years of reality, all kinds of things. I had a partner for 11 years. He died of AIDS in 1993. I took 1 year off to do a painting series, a tribute to him called Gary's Greenhouse and Garden, by painting his plants. And with everyone dying, I thought, well, if maybe I'm going to die too, I don't want to look back and say I never took time to be a full-time artist. So I did take 1 year off. In my early works, if you look deeper, you can see solitude and loneliness. The Broken Pot painting is the centerpiece for the Gary's Greenhouse and Garden series, because there's a plant that's just starting to bud and thrive, and in the middle of growth and joy, it's smashed and broken and gone. And that's what happened to Gary. Someone who might look at the painting really quick, they might see a man sitting on the bench, oh, that looks nice, move on to the next. But what they might not see is the whole story of that painting. And that painting is me, a man in very deep grief and self-reflection, who's wearing his partner's clothes. And the partner died of a horrible, terrible death. The sunlight is harsh. I am deep in thought. I have no idea how to process all this that's happening right now. And that's really what that painting is about. The other painting, Standing, is a few years later, after a few more deaths. It was an extraordinarily difficult time in my life. And then back in the dating scene, there was so much drugs and alcohol, and trying to navigate that world and my grief. That's a snapshot of history, and it's not representative of who I am now, but that's who I was then. Our best friend was a guy named Mark Coleman. Our favorite color was orange. And before Mark died, he gave me that orange vase because he knew I would treasure it. Man, it was something that he treasured also. And a house painter broke it, and there was no way to put it back together. So I thought, well, I'm going to make a painting. So it symbolizes Mark Coleman's shattered, broken life. Mark was only 35 when he died. After that first show, I went back to work editing, and a friend of mine at work gave me a lecture, said, you need to go home and keep painting. So I painted for 10 more years, and it was 11 total. So I had a good run of 11 steady years of painting. But for a number of reasons, I decided it was time to go back to editing. So I've been back in the editing world for over 20 years. And now that the industry's slowed down quite a bit post-pandemic, I'm pretty much painting full time. I could say I'm living my best life. I think one of the reasons that I'm drawn to painting plants, Gary told me he was into gardening as a kid. He would spend his allowance buying plants and growing. And then when he had his greenhouse, it was his space, but I took an avid interest in in what he was doing. So it was so much a representation of him that I felt that was the best way to pay tribute, is to paint the plants in the sunlight. And we shared that love of gardening and plants and all together. So that stuck. Even tooling around the neighborhood, I see plants and will jump out of my car or off my bike and snap some photo studies. So I think I want to paint that plant. So that's usually how it goes. Matter of fact, I have a whole series of small 12 by 12s. There's going to be 16 of them. I don't only paint plants. I paint other things too. Beach balls, beach chairs, beach umbrellas. That was a show. Bar people was a show. I do a lot of figurative work. Boats and bridges, lily ponds, koi fish. But I always come back to plants. Plants in sunlight. I did a painting series called Confrontal Nudity. There's 20 pieces, and all of the models are standing, it's not sexual, and they're looking right back at the viewer. It is quite unnerving and shocking to see a complete wall of naked people looking right at you. It was towards the end of my 11 years of painting 8 to 10 hours a day, and I got really good at doing faces and expressions and figure, which is really the hardest. I think that's my best body of work. It hasn't sold because it's a hard sell, nudes, but I do think it is my finest series. I was bullied quite a bit as a kid. I don't know how they knew I was gay because I didn't know I was gay, but people sensed that. And then in the workplace, I'd be bullied. I mean, one guy I worked with, he'd throw punches right in my face, just barely hitting me. This is a big movie studio that I worked at. I didn't know how to deal with that. Maybe it is a way of my confrontation. Yeah, so what? I am a gay man. What's your problem with it? I am fine with it. I'm a happy person. You're the one with the problem, not me. I'd go crazy if I was only painting plants in sunlight all the time. You gotta mix it up. And so I do try different things. Maybe halfway through my 11 years of painting full time, I took some classes from the lady who wrote this book. Now I look at paintings as a balance of light and shadow. Everyone has a life that's got light and shadow. And maybe that's why I've connected to that technique. I'm lucky in that I am a little bit maybe more in touch with it and can translate that onto the canvas. I think about warm colors, cool colors, warmth and coldness, light and shadow. I have no idea what my future looks like, to be honest. I never really imagined I was going to make it to 66. I look at all this as borrowed time, and I'm very lucky that I was able to stay around for the cure. And I would like to think that if I do make it to 86, that I will be a happy and healthy 86 that's able to have a good life and paint and be with family and friends. I listen to a lot of music when I paint. Sometimes it helps me get my thinking onto another plane, get a little bit more in touch with the emotion of music and translate that in a way onto a canvas. It's subtle, I know, but it's a tool that works for me to click into emotions and get it onto the canvas. Many people have gone through dark valleys and the shadow of death. And sometimes it doesn't seem like you're gonna ever crawl out, but I'm here to tell you that you can crawl out. I guess if you want to interpret my paintings in those terms, there is a commingling and a balance of light and shadow and how they work together. You really don't have one without the other. I don't think you really can appreciate the light in your life unless you've been through the shadow as well.
I painted grief in shades of blue, a broken pot, a love I cry, that shadowed fate, where I would hide. I painted grief in shades of blue, like broken pots, the friends I knew.